Today's major news from Korea. On the 15th, President Yoon Seok-Yeol promised food, ports, hospitals, and financial aid to North Korea on condition of the implementation of denuclearization. In particular, the presidential office emphasized that the pilot project for food exchange with North Korea and support for healthcare, drinking water, and sanitation can be implemented without conditions in the early stages of denuclearization negotiations. He also stated that he could negotiate partial exemptions from the UN resolution on sanctions against North Korea. This is the first time that inter-Korean cooperation for denuclearization has been concretely presented since the inauguration of the Yoon Seok-Yeol government. President Yoon also expressed his will to succeed in the Kim Dae-Jung Obuchi Joint Declaration for Japan, which is at a crossroads in the normalization of relations between Korea and Japan. In his congratulatory address on the 77th anniversary of Liberation Day, President Yoon said, "If North Korea stops developing nuclear weapons and converts to practical denuclearization, I propose a bold plan that can dramatically improve the economy and people's livelihood in North Korea in line with that stage." Said. Specifically, President Yoon implemented a large-scale food supply program in North Korea, support for power generation/transmission and distribution infrastructure, port/airport modernization project for international trade, technical support program to enhance agricultural productivity, support for hospital/medical infrastructure modernization, and international investment and financial support programs. Said he would. After President Yoon's congratulatory speech, Kim Tae-ho, first Deputy Director of the National Security Office, explained at a briefing at the Yongsan Government Building, "It is a bold proposal that focuses on dramatically improving the North Korean economy and people's livelihood in line with North Korea's substantial progress in denuclearization." Deputy Director Kim said, "We are preparing a large-scale food supply program in connection with North Korea's underground resources such as North Korea's minerals, sand, and rare earths, so-called Korean Peninsula Resource Food Exchange Program, and a pilot project to improve people's livelihood." He said that he is also preparing a roadmap for cooperation in the political and military sectors, including. Regarding the improvement of Korea-Japan relations, President Yoon emphasized that by inheriting the Kim Dae-Jung Obuchi Joint Declaration, which presented a comprehensive future vision for Korea-Japan relations, we will quickly restore and develop Korea-Japan relations. President Yoon explained that Japan was a subject that had to escape from political domination in the past in order to regain and protect our freedom, but now it is a neighbor that has to work together to face challenges that threaten the freedom of global citizens. Although it is a congratulatory speech for Liberation Day, it seems that he took a conciliatory gesture of improving future-oriented relations by presenting the solidarity of freedom values to Japan as a justification. Regarding the ongoing historical issues, such as compensation for victims of forced labor, President Yoon reiterated the importance of cooperation between the two countries, saying, "When Korea-Japan relations advance toward the future and mission of the two countries based on universal values, the problems of the past can also be properly resolved." On the 15th, candidate Jae Myung Lee, a powerful party leader in the Democratic Party of Korea, with 4 previous criminal convictions, introduced the concept of an online platform that directly collects the voices of party members and supporters. The explanation is to ensure maximum participation of party members in the party decision-making process, but there are concerns that the voices of hardline supporters may become too loud. At the talk concert that day, candidate Jae Myung Lee said, "Party members see everything the party is doing through the media, and the media acting as a gate, pass only what they need or pass through with slightly different content." Pointed out that he added, "You just have to create a platform." Through this, he added that he could collect the opinions of party members and deliver information to party members. Candidate Lee Jae Myung said on the 1st, "I apologized when I said that I should create an online platform for the party to criticize lawmakers who want to swear, but it became controversial." However, he expressed his intention to continue operating the platform once he became the party leader. Candidate Jae Myung Lee, who is currently on the cusp of investigation on various corruption charges such as a case related to the payment of attorney fees related to the Song-Bang Group, development corruption related to Newtown, misappropriation of Gyeonggi-do corporate card, and violation of the Political Fund Act, plans to activate the party member petition system and party member voting system. Some of the Democratic Party of Korea are concerned that such an initiative may overraise the voices of the Rights Party members. A Democratic Party official said, "It is prudent to leave matters that require comprehensive and political judgment to the vote of party members, even in the revision of Article 80 of the party constitution, which includes the suspension of party office at the time of prosecution." He said it was something to think about. On the 13th, while the National Federation of Democratic Trade Unions held a large-scale rally in downtown Seoul and argued for the cessation of the Korea-U.S. joint exercise, Kim Mi-ae, a member of the People's Power, targeted the KCTU and said, "The KCTU is a corrupt political group. The dissolution of the alliance, the suspension of the ROK-U.S. war exercises, the slogans from the Liberation Day National Workers' Congress hosted by the Confederation of Trade Unions, such as anti-U.S., anti-THID, and Lee Seok-Yeol's pardon lottery were sharply opposed." Rep. Kim said on his Facebook on the 16th, they are not a union representing workers' rights and interests, and they are a political group that denies the identity of the Republic of Korea. He said that it is a huge political force that only takes care of its own interests by putting a political slogan at the forefront. Rep. Kim said, the current Labor Union Act, Article 2, Number 4, is not considered a labor union mainly for the purpose of political movement, pointed out that it is clearly. He continued, nevertheless, it is deplorable that they are protected by the law in the name of the labor union. They enjoy all their rights, and we have to wait until how long to see the destruction in the middle of Seoul, he said. He criticized the KCTU for not talking about workers' human rights and not even interested in North Korean human rights. He said, it undermines the value of freedom and only hates the Republic of Korea built on the blood of free citizens of the world, he said. It is the most effective way to ensure a peaceful daily life for the general public and prevent injustice. He insisted that the law should be strictly governed and the national discipline, which had been broken in the past 5 years, should be established. On the 13th, the first day of the Liberation Day holiday, the Federation of Korean Trade Unions held a large-scale rally in downtown Seoul and said, they insisted that the USROK joint exercises be stopped. On that day, the organizers also read a solidarity message sent by a North Korean labor organization, causing a stir. We cannot tolerate the current government trying to plunge this country into the flames of war, said the head of the KCTU. The North Korean labor organization sent a solidarity message, said the chairman of the National Teachers and Staff Union Unification Committee. The conservative ruling forces of Yoon Seok-Yeol in the U.S. and South Korea are frantically conducting wars of aggression in the sky, land, and sea at this time. Read the ruling party defined this behavior as a political assembly and poured out intense criticism. A spokesperson for the People's Power spokesperson commented, the Confederation of Trade Unions urges us to stop the anachronistic political struggle and remain faithful to the original role of the labor union. A spokesperson for the People's Power spokesperson continued, I set a point saying, is it difficult for fellow workers to make a living, and whether they are only passionate about the political struggle of old ideologies. Kim Ki-hyeon, a member of the People's Strength Council, said, the KCTU, which has been transformed into the superpower of our society, has now become a national hatred of the people. Rep. Kim said, it was like watching a political agitation rally by the North Korean Workers' Party for the overthrow of the system. It has turned into a power group that seeks to overthrow the system by making political agitation openly. North Korea is pursuing a plan to send construction workers to the Luhansk People's Republic, following the Donetsk People's Republic established by Ukraine's pro-Russian separatists after the declaration of independence and ignoring the UN sanctions that prohibit North Korea from sending workers abroad. On the 13th, U.S. Radio Free Asia said Rodion Moroshnik, ambassador of the Luhansk People's Republic to Russia, had a meeting with the North Korean ambassador to Russia, Shin Hong-chol, through telegram on the 10th, and a plan to put North Korean construction workers into the reconstruction project of the Luhansk People's Republic. It was reported that the discussions were made public. Ambassador Moroshnik thanked North Korea's ambassador for recognition of the Luhansk People's Republic of Korea on the same day and said that North Korean workers would be able to help restore the destroyed infrastructure and industrial facilities in the country. At the meeting, the ambassadors of the two countries discussed areas of mutual benefit such as trade, economy, and tourism development, in addition to dispatching North Korean workers, and agreed to actively support each other in research on promising areas of cooperation in the future. Agreed to include in Resolution 2397 on North Korea adopted in 2017 by the UN Security Council requires member states to return North Korean workers to North Korea by December 22, 2019, in order to cut off the source of funding for North Korea's nuclear and missile development. An expert on the North Korea Sanctions Committee under the UN Security Council made it clear that the North Korean labor force was in violation of UN sanctions against North Korea. An office worker who started playing golf 2 years ago recently put on sale for 500,000 won a golf club from TaylorMade, which he had bought for 1.4 million won. After a weekend round last month, I thought it would be difficult to continue playing golf anymore due to excessive expenses. As he spent a total of 440,000 won, including 290,000 won for green fee, 150,000 won for caddy fee, and 90,000 won for cart fee, he judged that it was beyond his ability to pay. He said, it cost 50,000 won more for food and beverage at the golf course and 30,000 won for betting golf. An abnormal current is being detected in the golf market, which has been booming due to COVID-19. There are signs that young people in their 20s and 30s, who were the background of the surge in the golf population, are quitting golf and leaving. It seems that the number of young golfers who feel burdened by the expensive golf fee, various supplies, and clothes is increasing. There is also a forecast that the domestic golf industry, which had been hit by the corona boom, will reach an inflection point by myself. The sentiment for apartment purchases in Seoul continued to decline for 14 weeks in a row, reaching the lowest level in 3 years and 1 month. According to the Korea Real Estate Agency, the Seoul Apartment Sales and Demand Index this week was 84.4, down 0.2p from the previous week's 84.6. It was the 14th consecutive week of decline since the survey on May 2, and recorded the lowest level in 3 years and 1 month since July 8, 2019, at 83.2. On a scale of 100, closer to 0 means more people wanting to sell, and closer to 200 means more people wanting to buy. A decline was observed in most areas of Seoul. Among the 5 districts in Seoul, the place with the lowest purchase and demand index was the northwestern region with Mapo, Yunpyeong, and Sidamun, which fell from 78.0 in Jeonju to 77.7 this week. Also, the southeast area, which includes Gangnam 4 districts, also fell from 91.6 to 90.7. The downtown area of Yongsan, Jongno, and Yonggu alone was 83.2, the same as in Jeonju. The nationwide apartment sales and demand index also fell 0.4p from 90.5 the previous week to 90.1. This is the lowest figure since 90.3 in November 2019. The National Trading Supply and Demand Index has stayed below 100 since 100.1 at the end of November last year. The metropolitan area fell 0.3p from 87.5 to 87.2, and the province dropped 0.5p from 93.3 to 92.8. Monthly trading volume reached 2 historical lows this year alone. According to the Seoul Real Estate Information Company, the number of apartment transactions in Seoul was 516 as of July, down from the previous low of 815 in February. Not a single transaction was made in Mapo and Songdong-gu. As KEPCO's operating loss in the first half of the year recorded an all-time high of 14.3 trillion won, the need for realizing electricity rates is growing. Electricity bought at a high price has no choice but to sell at a lower price, and the more it sells, the more losses it continues, and the loss in the first half of the year has reached the point of exceeding the market cap of KEPCO. According to KEPCO on the 16th, sales in the first half of the year were 31.99 trillion won and operating expenses were 46.295.4 trillion won, resulting in an operating loss of 14.303.3 billion won. Operating loss from 187.3 billion won in the first half of last year increased by 14.116 trillion won in 1 year. The reason why the loss has soared is because, unlike other countries, the factors of rising electricity rates are not properly reflected in actual rates. The average price of LNG in the first half of the year, mainly used for electricity generation, rose 132.7% compared to the same period of the previous year, and bituminous coal rose 221.7%. As of the 12th, Dubai crude was $96.48 per barrel, up 37% from $70.42 in the previous year. In March, it soared to $122.53. Korea, which is considered one of the cheapest countries in the world, showed a price range of 61% for residential use and 88% for industrial use compared to the OECD average in 2020. The gap with overseas electricity rates has widened in recent years. Unlike Korea, major foreign countries adjust prices whenever there is a factor that increases electricity rates, such as fuel costs. Spain raised electricity rates by 68.5% compared to the previous year. Germany also raised its electricity rates to 43.4%, the UK 33.7%, Italy 55%, and Japan 32.3%. On the other hand, the rate of increase in Korea is about 5%. While it is known that more than 480 trillion won will be invested in climate response such as revitalization of the electric vehicle market in the United States, the insides of Korean battery makers are complicated. The fact that the U.S. intention to reduce dependence on China for major parts of electric vehicles such as batteries is recognized as a good news for the domestic industry, but it limits the origin of key minerals only. According to major foreign media such as CNBC on the 15th, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act passed the House of Representatives on the 12th, and Joe Biden's U.S. Only the signature of the president remained. The bill provides for a tax credit of $4,000 and $7,500, respectively, for the purchase of a used electric vehicle or a new car for low and middle income families for 10 years until 2032. In order to receive incentives, it was stipulated that at least a certain part of auto parts must be manufactured in North America. The problem became known as more detailed terms of the bill became public. The Inflation Reduction Act not only put forward the condition of a battery manufactured in the United States, but also placed restrictions on the production of major parts and major minerals. However, it was stated that the subsidy for each of the major minerals used in electric vehicle batteries and for battery parts must be met to receive a subsidy of $3,750 each. For example, for major minerals, the proportion of mineral raw materials mined and processed in countries that have FTAs with the United States or the proportion of mineral raw materials recycled in North America must meet 40% by 2023. After that, it will be raised by 10% every year, and vehicles after 2027 must meet the 80% requirement. In addition, for battery parts, which are a requirement, the parts must be assembled or manufactured in North America, and they must meet the requirements of 50% of the total value by 2023, 60% in 2024, and 100% in 2029. As the specific requirements become known, concerns are raised in the local media as well. Even if the bill is passed, a guideline corresponding to the enforcement ordinance or enforcement rules of Korea is expected to be prepared before the full-scale implementation of the law, and we hope that the industry's concerns will be reflected in this process, said an official from the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Said he would try. It is explained that there are still many variables that need to be considered, such as the specific enforcement year of the law as well as the effective date, whether the required ratio is applied to each detailed part, or whether it is applied to the total amount of parts. An official from the battery industry said, the impact on the industry will also vary depending on whether sanctions will be imposed on certain Chinese companies or whether it is okay for Chinese companies to have production plants in the United States. It's too early to say whether it's good or bad for the company, he said. The unsold warning light came on. Even the rate of spread is staggering. This is because it is difficult to find complexes with the deadline for subscription in the rankings, and hundreds of uncontracted orders are pouring in from one place. In particular, in the case of Pyeongtaek, where house prices rose significantly due to the attraction of Samsung Electronics, it was found that more than 1,000 unsold apartments were sold in one day. While it is interpreted as the effect of a sharp cooling in housing buying sentiment, concerns are growing that the construction industry may experience a cold winter again, although not as much as it was during the global financial crisis in the past. It is also pointed out that if unsold pre-sale leads to problems such as financing, it may cause deterioration in earnings. According to the subscription homepage of the Korea Real Estate Agency on the 16th, in the case of Dae-Jung Billy Brucent, only 30 people applied for 229 households in the ranking conducted from the 9th to the 10th. In particular, it was found that undersubscription occurred in all housing types. The situation was similar for Yaso Korea Atelium Prague, which was sold at the same time. There were 182 households for sale, but as a result of the 2-day subscription process, only 52 cases were received. There is also an analysis that the rate of unsold presale is accelerating. A real estate expert at InGilBang said, as the presale market, like the real estate market, is in a state of waiting, unsold houses in the second half of the year are spreading faster than in the first half, he said. In such a situation, it has been found that some sites are offering discounts on presale to help exhaust the unsold units. In fact, Kontabulsuyu Palace in Gangbukgu, Seoul is offering a discount of up to 15% compared to the existing sale price for some types. In this case, it is known that the purchase can be made at a price of 100 million won or more than the sale price. An official from the real estate industry said, as unsold presales are spreading nationwide, some businesses are providing various benefits to shake off unsold sales as quickly as possible. This is interpreted as believing that buying sentiment is likely to cool further in the future. Seoul apartment transaction volume also shrank to an all-time low. As of the 12th, there were only 516 reports of apartment purchases in Seoul in July. Although the deadline to report the actual transaction price is left until the end of this month, considering the weakening buying sentiment, there is a possibility that it will record a record low, less than 815 cases in February this year. The construction industry is closely monitoring the spread of unsold houses and is concerned about the deterioration of management. An official from the construction industry said, constructors are experiencing a double hardship due to the burden of rising raw material prices and reduced orders, and they are worried that unsold housing units will lead to deterioration in performance, said to be true. After the tragedy of the death of people living in semi-subterranean houses due to torrential rain, the government and local governments are forming a consensus that they should come up with a fundamental countermeasure, but the temperature difference appears somewhat. When the Seoul Metropolitan Government announced the sunset system for semi-underground housing, which will sequentially remove existing underground and semi-underground buildings after a grace period of 10 to 20 years, Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport Won Hee-ryong questioned the reality. The city of Seoul announced on the 10th that it would promote the introduction of a sunset system for semi-underground housing for existing houses, and that it would propose to the government to revise the law so that if a new building is built, the semi-basement cannot be used for residential purposes. It is known that the city will ask the government for a plan to include a mandatory provision not to permit the construction of semi-underground houses in areas of habitual flooding or areas of concern for flooding in the building law. In this regard, an official from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport said, even though we agree on the necessity, we will consider whether it can be a fundamental measure. Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport Won Hee-ryong also posted on Facebook on the 12th, the semi-underground is a place where people live, and if the semi-underground is removed, where will they go? He emphasized the need to come up with a policy so that many types of housing that can be afforded can appear in the market. Currently, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport is seeking solutions to fundamentally solve the semi-subterranean problem while preparing necessary alternatives, such as identifying the amount of public rental housing to be used for emergency housing support for the victims. The United States said on the 15th that it supports the bold initiative for the denuclearization of North Korea proposed by President Yoon Seok-Yeol in his congratulatory speech on the 15th of August. At the same time, the U.S. indirectly ordered the improvement of Korea-Japan relations by emphasizing the importance of trilateral cooperation for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. We strongly support the ROK's goal of paving the way for serious and lasting diplomacy with Pyongyang, U.S. State Department spokeswoman Ned Price said at a regular briefing on the same day when asked about the U.S. position on President Yoon's Liberation Day speech. The goal the United States shares with South Korea, its allies and partners, is the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, he added. As part of that, a strong and effective trilateral relationship between the United States, South Korea, and Japan is important for the promotion of common security and common interests, Price said, emphasizing trilateral cooperation. The trilateral cooperation between Korea, the United States, and Japan is to safeguard freedom and democracy, defend human rights and women's rights, respond to climate change, build safe and resilient supply chains, promote regional security and stability, strengthen the international non-proliferation regime, and promote the rule of law in the Indo-Pacific and around the world. He also emphasized the importance of strengthening. A kidnapping took place, not in downtown Seoul. In the middle of the night near an apartment complex in Yongsan-gu, Seoul, a man in his 20s was kidnapped by a car and then escaped. According to the Yongsan police station in Seoul on the 15th, a report was received that 4 men were trying to kidnap a man in his 20s by forcibly riding him in a vehicle near an apartment complex in Yongsan-gu on the morning of the 15th. The kidnapped victim is said to have escaped by jumping while the car was moving around Nonhyeon-dong, Gangnam-gu. After receiving the report, the police rushed to the scene and caught one of the 4 men who did not get into the car near the scene based on CCTV. It is said that the kidnapping suspect made a statement during the police investigation to the effect that he had a debt relationship with the victim. Police are investigating the specific circumstances of the incident. The other 3 men are also being pursued. A group of bikers who were driving recklessly in downtown Dae-Jung at the dawn of Liberation Day were caught by the police. The Dae-Jung Police Agency announced on the 15th that it had arrested 77 people, including Army A, at the scene and confiscated 3 motorcycles for violating traffic signals and driving recklessly on major roads in Dae-Jung on the occasion of Liberation Day. After identifying the gathering place through social network services from teenagers to early 30s, they drove 100 cars and 30 motorcycles from Daegu, Busan, and Changwon, Gyeongsang-namdo, and gathered sporadically at major points in Daegu. In a video released on a social network service, they took off their tops and ran while ignoring the signal. He swung the Taijik guy as if mocking the police who were dispatched, passing loudly in front of him, or raising his middle finger while running through the blocked police cars. When a child cried on a flight to Jeju, a male passenger grabbed his parents by the neck and spit on them, causing a riot. The man was handed over to the police as soon as he arrived at Jeju International Airport and is being investigated. According to the airline industry on the 15th, a man in his 40s who boarded a flight departing from Gimpo Airport to Jeju Island around 4 p.m. the day before moved to the seat with his parents when the child cried on the plane and sweared at them, including abusive language, according to the airline industry on the 15th. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.